All right, guys, we should be good now. I'm going off that 4G. All right, guys, we should be good now. I'm going off that 4G network. Um, might have been the issue on my end, so let's get Brandon back on here so we don't scare him away for the day. All right, we should be good now. So yeah, the show's going really well. People have been enjoying it. It obviously is a time where, art can really change your emotions and bring you to a place of peace. So, you know,
Hmm.
we haven't sold your piece yet, so it's still available for people that are listening.
Nice.
And how's your show? Don't you have another virtual show going on in Texas as well?
Yeah, their gallery, it's Samuel Lynn Galleries in Dallas, and they've been representing me for the past couple of years. And I did a whole series, actually, of paintings, new paintings, for what was supposed to be an in-person opening before the lockdown happened. It's called Impossible Knots, and I was really proud of it. So it was kind of gutting to know that it wasn't going to be able to be seen in person anytime soon. They're hoping to make it available to see in person this fall. Their gallery is open, but I can't in good conscience recommend anybody go out to the gallery to see it because Texas is experiencing a pretty significant spike in COVID cases. So I would say just wait it out. And I think it'll still be there in the fall. So, but
Yeah.
like you said, in the interim, people can check it out online virtually. They've done a really good job of adapting to the situation and made all of the work available to view in pretty great detail online.
And has it been tough as an artist? Has things changed for you with everything going on with Corona and adapting to this new style of life?
You know, yeah, I mean, I've definitely had my set of challenges. My whole year and the whole year of the band got completely turned upside down. Like I was saying before, we were supposed to be touring. We put out an EP that we worked really hard on. It's called Trust Fall Side B. It's available for people to listen to, but we were very much looking forward to getting out and performing these new songs for people. So it's going to have to wait until hopefully it'll be next year that we get to go back out on tour, but we're still in kind of a holding pattern. All that being said, I have to say that because I have the ability to stay home, um, my lockdown situation, my quarantine situation has been an absolute blessing by comparison to what I know so many people have been going through. So many people who don't have the luxury of staying home, so many people who have lost family members. I know people that have got COVID. I know a few who've recovered, and I know someone that is currently on a ventilator, and it's quite worrisome. So it's a complicated spectrum of emotions, but all I can say is that I myself am healthy and safe, and as are my most beloved family members and friends. And so beyond that, I can't wish for much more. My heart goes out to anyone in the world and everyone in the world who's experiencing this in a not so cushy way. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? There's almost as well of a sense. One of the things that's been hard, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, is there's a little bit of a sense of helplessness, that comes along with this moment when there's so much more that you feel like you should be doing. And so you're racking your brain and you're searching the internet for ways that you could be of assistance. And so what we've been trying to do is use art and music as a vector for that assistance. So we've been doing some fundraisers through through art and through just very simple lending of time to raise money for our brothers and sisters in the Navajo Nation. We auctioned off this really cool hat a couple of days ago and raised a bunch of money. Our band Incubus, through our nonprofit, the Make Yourself Foundation, we've been able to raise quite a lot of money for food programs for people that don't have food security, which is amazing. It's an amazing thing to think that in America there are people that are food insecure, but it's a lot more pressing of an issue than you could have ever imagined. So doing everything that we can know how to do, but still, I wish there was more that we could do, you know?
Yeah, and I noticed you guys did a new version of Agoraphobia with a video and acoustic version. I mean, obviously
Yeah.
those lyrics are really hitting, you know, harder during this time, and you kind of encapsulated everyone's overall mood. Was that a song that you decided to do acoustically before this happened or during quarantine?
Well, for the uninitiated, it was a song that we wrote that came out in 2004.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be a single, actually. And then the record label that we were on at that time decided that they were done promoting the record, so the single never came out. But people who got the record were very familiar with the song. So just being at home, and I've been recording a handful of different cover songs that I've been enamored with and kind of putting them out quite slowly. And I have a handful more that I'm about to put out. It occurred to me that Incubus has so many songs from, you know, the recent past whose content could speak very well to the current moment. So I just got in touch with Mike and said, hey, send me an acoustic version of Agoraphobia. It's a little too like on the nose not to do. So we actually did it a couple of months ago, and then the George Floyd killing happened, and we just kind of pushed pause on everything because we needed to, as everybody did, needed to make space for that to be the central focus of the cultural conversation. You know, not that a little song that Incubus puts out would distract from that, but I feel like this movement needed every ounce of energy available. So we did everything in our power there to help generate energy towards that. So we waited to put it out a little bit, but yeah, it was fun. I got the chance to make a little music video with a camera I had here at home, and my girlfriend and I just put our heads together and we filmed something. I went over to Mikey's house, I put a mask on, some glasses, and I filmed him playing the part and made a little music video. So
No, it came out great. I watched it earlier, so I loved it, and everyone else should check it out if they haven't seen it. Why don't we get to your piece of art so we can talk about this that's in the show right now? So I'll bring that up on my end. So let me see. Let me see if I have a better. No. Are you seeing that on your end?
yeah, I can see most of it. Yeah.
Okay. So this is the piece as above. I guess give us a little insight on this and how this came to be.
So it was two pieces. This was I suppose the top piece as above, and then there was a below piece that I call so below. I was just tapping into that very old notion of that as above, so below. There's lots of ways to say that. As the call, so the echo. What you give is what you get. You know, there's so many ways to describe this notion of, I suppose, a universal principle. But I wanted to capture this person kind of emerging from that cocoon, that kind of psychedelic chrysalis, like we were talking about earlier, and reaching up towards the sky, sort of in an exalted position. So yeah, it's quite simple. I suppose that's all there is to say about it, but it came out quite nice. I like that, how she's almost, most of her body is sort of still part of that beautiful kind of chaotic rainbow, and then as she reaches further and further up, her hands become shadowed, or it's like she's materializing, and the shadow aspects of it are starting to be hinted at. So that was the thought process, at least.
And does the form or the body or the person that you're drawing or painting, does that normally come to you in your subconscious? Is it someone you already know? are, where does those figures come from in all your works?
Right. Sometimes they're just free-handed. Sometimes they're just kind of just out of nowhere. In this piece in particular, though, I did a photograph of my girlfriend reaching up like that, and so I was able to study the photograph on my computer screen to get just a little bit more of a precise version of the idea that I had in my head. So I'd say about half to three-quarters of the time, when I'm doing like figurative, quasi-figurative stuff like this, I'm studying from a photograph that I've taken, and then the other part of the time, I just kind of wing it. The only real art education, I suppose, that I have as far as like technique is concerned is life drawing. I did quite a few semesters of life drawing where we learned from just sitting with a model, male or female, young or old, and you just learn to draw the human body. And I think the reason I continually go back to it is because it's continually challenging. It's one of those things that you think you have a handle on it, and then you figure out that you've only really started to scratch the surface. The human body is relatively consistent and relatively simple in its anatomy, but the further into it that you study, the more you realize how sort of beautifully complex it is. So there's a lot of different places to go with it from a creative perspective.
Yeah, and I love this work. I mean, I would own it if I didn't already have another 150 pieces here that are sitting in a room. But I hope it finds a great home. I love your color usage, and I love watercolor. So what you do with that? I mean, do you have a favorite medium? I know you use all different mediums. Do you have a favorite medium that you like to paint and draw in, or paint?
Yeah, I think watercolor is probably my favorite medium to work with. I've been enamored with watercolor for well over 10 years, and once again, I think the reason that it's continually intriguing is because it's so challenging. It's a very difficult medium to master. And when I see people that start to edge towards mastery, my mind is blown with what they're able to see and get out of these tools. So I have zero education formally in watercolor theory and technique, so I've just been kind of following my nose through it. Hence the fact that most of the paintings in watercolor I do are mostly like watercolor spilling and seeping together, and then I kind of find images in the chaos.
Okay, so do you draw the image first and then make the chaos around it, or is it kind of all just intertwined as the works go?
It's usually just a mess. It's usually like I start to kind of just throw paint and spill paint, and then images and ideas start to emerge from there. And then sometimes happy accidents occur where I see an opening and I'm like, oh, that, photograph of my girlfriend that I took, her silhouette could be amazing emerging from this, in this picture. That's kind of how it worked. So, yeah. And then sometimes I'll do very precise, like pencil drawings that I really try hard on. I try and do and a few of those have come out that are more like kind of highly figurative, and they try and be more precise. But my process kind of toggles back and forth between completely embracing the chaos of paint, go from there all the way to this is going to be a really precise painting. I'm not going to make one mistake, that kind of a thing. So.
Yeah, I mean, it comes out perfect once it's finished. So it's sometimes a happy accident is the best thing in art. So.
Yeah, most of my favorite works that I've done have been kind of happy accidents.
There you go. And I know you've always been into like tattoos as well. Do you normally work, I guess when you get tattoos, I mean, is it something that impacts your life, or how do you decide when, I know you've many great tattoos. That one on your back's pretty insane too. I mean,
Thank you.
What do they mean to you, I guess, obviously on a deeper level?
A little bit like a lot of other creative avenues in my life, it kind of runs a spectrum. It goes all the way from this tattoo is marking a moment in my life And it's the most meaningful thing to me that I could have ever imagined, all the way to the other side of the spectrum, which is like, I just really like this weird cat with the burglar mask on with the knife, and I just want it on my body for the rest of my life. So it depends on my mood, I suppose. I do appreciate the kind of inherent philosophy of some tattoo circles, which is like, I'm paraphrasing, but it's something I've heard quite a few times in the tattoo community, which is that pain is temporary, but art is forever, you know? So we endure these very brief moments of sometimes pretty horrible pain, but then you get this amazing, hopefully amazing thing out of it. And then sometimes it's not amazing, and you learn to have a sense of humor about the fact that you have a bad tattoo. And most people that have any tattoos have a couple of bad tattoos. Present company included.
So everyone who gets tattoos normally has one that isn't great,
or more.
Or more.
In my case.
Well, there is that. What's the one show? There's that TV show where people is like botched or something like that, but with tattoo. I've seen some bad ones on that.
I had to stop watching it. It was terrifying me. Yeah. It's so funny. There's the tattoo thing to have even like a very base understanding of where tattoos come from and the many different ways that they've evolved over time is pretty fascinating. You know, they started, to my knowledge, as very kind of like high ritual, religious, experiential markings, you know, and they would signify your place in your tribe. And some of that has not gone away, but then it kind of evolved into being predominantly like something that emerged around prison culture. And then that kind of evolved out onto the street and then into like music. And then, it's been toggling, but it never lost its place in certain very, very old religious practices. Even the term tattoo, it comes from, as many of your listeners probably know, comes from the term tatau, which means to tap. So when you see people, that's like the oldest way of doing it. They like will dip in ink with some pointed tool and then tap the design into you painstakingly over sometimes days. And they still do tattoos like that in certain parts of the world. So yeah, it's a fascinating subculture. I've always been kind of fascinated by it.
Yeah, I had a friend when we were in Thailand. She got the old hammering style tattoo done. And one of my scuba diving masters had one done too. It just, the ink seems like it stays so much longer.
I think maybe it does because they are literally just like hammering it into your skin.
And then the one thing I wanted to touch on before I let you go, I know you're a busy man, but I know you've obviously written and curated books. I think you have 3 books now. I guess, how did that all come to be? And tell the audience a little bit about those in case there's any interest in those as well.
Yeah. I have been a book collector and a book admirer since for as long as I can remember. And once again, this is part of the influence of my parents. My parents always had lots of books around the house growing up. And I grew up in a place for the formative years of my life where we didn't have cable TV and we didn't have television reception. So even like getting the most basic of network television was kind of a thing. I would go to other people's houses to watch TV. So I didn't even really grow up on MTV or anything like that, which is such a normal kind of staple for American culture and young people growing up in the time that I did in the 80s and 90s. So I turned to books, and my imagination was piqued around the experience of diving into other people's imagery or other people's ideas or their stories. And so I've been collecting books since I was a kid. I have way too many books. It makes moving a thing. It's a thing. But it's sort of like, it's a labor of love. It's a burden I'll happily take on because I know that my small, humble library will be something that I can pass on to my future children or my best friends or my family. And as a result, I think I've always known that I wanted to, at least in some small way, participate in that process and hopefully stoke people's imaginations or bring ideas to them that they might not have been exposed to before. So I started trying my hand at that in 2003. I put out a book called White Fluffy Clouds, which is still available. And I'm an independent publisher, so I'm enamored of the whole process. Like I get into the paper, I get into the printing. I love all of it. The second book I put out was I think it came out in 2007. It's called From the Murks of the Sultry Abyss. And then the third book, and the most recent, came out in, I think it was 2014, and it's called So the Echo. And I'm currently working on my fourth book, which is as yet untitled.
That's great. Yeah, they look great. I need to read one of them so I can tell you how good they are. The one thing is, when you're obviously, I've spoken to artists that are, music and art talented. Do you think they intertwine at all? The two, or is it a totally different setting when you're writing music compared to making a painting?
There are obvious differences between the two processes. But I think that more than anything, the similarities are abundant. I think that the similarities probably outshine the differences, in that the creative urge to do anything, I think, originates from the same, if not similar, if not the same place. In my experience, it's been that the urge to make something comes from the same place, and it's really just an overwhelming drive to create, to express oneself, to I suppose to be a part of a larger process. So on any given day, I can't really say that it is my conscious decision which direction that I go in. I either end up in my yurt down there where I paint, and I just start kind of going, or I end up downstairs in my little humble music studio and try and write songs or try and learn other people's songs. It's just they're springing from the same desired set. And when neither of them come, which is something that people ask about quite often, like, what do you do when you don't feel inspired or you feel like you're blocked? Which I have a lot of experience with at this point, having been at it for quite a long time. What I do is I don't take it personally. I try and get my ego out of that equation. Too much ego can definitely be the death of art in the creative process, because when it's there, when the muse is there, you feel in bliss. You feel like you're part of the creation of the universe. And when it's not there, you can feel like what's wrong with me? Maybe I never was creative. Maybe I'm not creative anymore. And so by trying to do my best to remove my ego from that equation, it kind of levels out the experience. So it's less peaks and valleys, and it's more of kind of a gentle ebb and a flow.
Nice. Well, I've loved talking to you. You're very inspirational. A lot of wisdom, comes through your brain and out to everyone. Is there anything you'd like to leave the audience with?
Wow, so much. I suppose I would just like to tell everyone listening that I see you and I love you, and we are going to emerge from this current situation better than we went into it with. And I think it's really good to have that as kind of a centerpiece of the experience, even when things get really, really difficult. This period of time could be looked at as sort of like a collective growing pain. And so essentially what I'm trying to say is I think that there is a lot of reason for hope, and I think that people should really double down on that, because that's what we need more of.
definitely need hope these days, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, and let's give this piece a home as well. This piece is for sale. You can get off our Instagram shop, our gallery shop, and a proceed of all sales will go to benefit United Way. So it's, you know, you're doing good for a good organization as well. And thank you, Brandon, for all your time. This is a blast. I still remember the days in high school when I moved to Virginia from California to listen to Incubus and feel like I was still in California. So thanks for that.
Right on, man.
All right. Thanks,
thank
man.
you
Have
too.
a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
All right, guys. So that was Brandon Boyd. You know, great musician, great person, great artist, great everything. Really amazing outlook on life, on his art. I hope everyone enjoyed it, and I hope we can find a home for this piece. You can message us as well, and if you're interested in the piece, or, you know, check us out online, bgrdealings.com, or buy it from the Instagram shop. But thanks again to everyone for tuning in. My name is Billy Gross, and it was a pleasure speaking with Brandon Boyd today and give you guys a little insight on his mind as an artist. Thanks, and have a great day. Bye.